Today, we're going to talk about EVP or Employee Value Proposition. What do you truly have to offer an employee that sets you apart from someone else or another employer? That's what we're talking about today. Hi there, I'm Bryan Adams. This is the HR Hub. On the show, you get expert insight into anything related to HR. Please subscribe to the show or podcast to keep learning from my guest. And today, my guest is again, Bryan Adams. Well, I made a joke about Bryan Adams last time. I got plenty of those Adams jokes when I was a kid. Bryan's a branding expert. He wrote a book called Give and Get Employer Branding. He's written another book as well. I'm not sure what that one's called, and is in the midst of writing another one. He was the leader of Ph.Creative, an employer branding agency. Now he's dedicated himself to not a new venture, but a careers website platform called Happy Dance. Hi, Bryan. How are you?
Good to see you again. I'm ready and raring to go with another great conversation.
Yeah, me too. The last one was amazing. Okay, so tell us, start at the beginning. Tell us about EVP. What is it and why is it important?
The EVP is essentially the sort of meat in the sandwich of employer brand strategy, and arguably the most important element to really set the expectations of what you're going to find during the employee experience, and also in the context of why you should care, and in the book, Give and Get Employer Branding, it was thought of quite controversial when we put on the front, repel the many to compel the few, because I think conventionally EVP was thought of to make you more attractive and to try and get as many people as possible to apply for a role. We think it's more of a smart filter. It's a two-way value exchange. The proposition, there's a clue in the name. A proposition is a two-way deal, right? And if that can be a two-way value exchange where the organization clearly sets out what they offer an employee, including what the organization expects in return, then on that basis, the candidate, an employee, can make more of an informed decision as to whether that's a proposition they see themselves fitting into or not.
You described the EVP as the meat in the employer branding sandwich.
Did just say that, yes.
I like it. Which begs for me the question, what are the other parts of, I know this isn't the employer brand episode, but that's the meat in the sandwich. What else goes to employer brand?
Yeah, so the one above, you'll remember, like we talked about the employer brand strategy. The one above is reputation, so what you want to be known for. And the one below is experience. Where does the rubber meet the road? And where do you invest your time branding those key points of employee experience, candidate experience, alumni experience to prove out the proposition? So the proposition is designed to be in service with the reputation, and the experience is designed to be in service to the proposition. So that's why proposition is in the middle, reputation above. That's the top bread, and the bottom layer of bread is the experience. There you go.
Okay, you talk about, and you've already talked about it already, actually, the give and get. Just dig into that. How's it relevant?
So the number one question a candidate has when they're about to interview for a job and they're all nervous and they're going to have to answer all these questions, and they've read the website and, they've already been through screening and now they want the role. There's a moment that we've all probably experienced of anticipation of imposter syndrome. Oh no, do I have what it takes to do this job? When the role reads like an absolute day trip, it reads like everything's amazing. The people are incredible. Benefits look outstanding. Everything's sunshine, rainbows, smiles, hugs, and happy days. There's something missing. Okay, like what do I really know? And people will search on average between 6 and 8 hours online to try and find the truth about an employee experience before even deciding to apply for a job. What they're looking for is, okay, but do I have what it takes to thrive? What are the adversities, the harsh realities, the challenges, the sacrifices, the commitments that aren't being talked about that I need to be prepared? So the give and get methodology of proposition is quite forthright with that information, but positioned in context, not just as a sort of 8-mile approach of putting the negatives out there so you can't be blamed afterwards. Putting them in the context of, well, some people look at an adversity and a challenge and say, "Woof, that looks too hard. That's not for me." Some people look at it and think, "That's easy. That wouldn't challenge me enough." And some people think, "Wow, I think I could be stretched. I think I've got what it takes to do it, but I'd get a lot of fulfillment in that. And that sounds intriguing." And they're compelled enough to lean in. So the one message can get different reactions based on skill set, capability, mindset, and so on and so forth. And that's what it should be designed to do.
Hey, business owners, executive directors, are people stresses or challenges getting in your way? Imagine managing your people issues smoothly, addressing, better yet, dealing with employee problems before they're ever a big problem, adapting to all the changes in employee rules, and doing all of this easily. I can deal with your HR challenges so they're resolved. With me, you'll get the right things done, build a strong team, and create a workplace where the right people want to be. Your business deserves to thrive without a lot of HR hassle. I'm here to help you make that happen. With my assistance, you can focus on business growth, supported by a strong team. Take a first step towards a better business today. Reach out and let's chat. Visit the hrhub.ca and let's begin transforming your people challenges.
Can you provide an example, actually, of how an EVP worked?
Yeah, sure. So I remember probably the most nervous I've ever been in my career was after the research we'd done for the Apple employer brand. And we were presenting back into a very senior room. And I had to break it to this senior room that virtually everybody in the organization that we spoke to had told us that there wasn't very much work-life balance at Apple. Like it's a place where, you kind of got to leave your soul at the door and give everything you've got. So of course we do this, and there's a pregnant pause and a sort of awkward silence until someone leans forward and says, "Well, what do you expect us to do with that? We can't tell people that. People will leave. That's, what you want us to do." So obviously I answered with, "Well, they're the ones that told us, like they already know. But rather than it be a 600-pound gorilla in the room, we should lean into the fact that actually at Apple, you have to commit to the cause and contribute and sacrifice a little bit more than in other places, more than most. But if you do that, you work with some of the world's best minds you'll ever have the privilege to be in the same team as. You're going to find out what you're truly capable of faster than anywhere on earth. You've got the best resources around you to solve problems and fail fast than anywhere else. And you get to see your work in the hands of millions of people every day. So there you have a give and get of sacrifice, commitment, whole work-life balance, but opportunity to thrive and be the best version of you and contribute to something. And you get to see that impact significantly all around you every day. And that's not for everybody. But that might repel a lot more people than compels leaning in. But isn't that a good thing? Do you want somebody to find out in their first 30 days that they couldn't possibly cope and thrive and survive at Apple? Or do you want them to know that before they apply and nobody's time is wasted? And we spoke to engineers that worked a 14-hour day on site at Apple, went home and did another 4 hours because they just wanted to. They were obsessed. That's the type of person it takes to thrive at Apple and do the world's greatest technological sort of innovative work. That's what it takes to thrive there.
How does an EVP fail? Under what conditions is an EVP failing?
Oh, what a great question. So typically an EVP will fail if it's true but nobody cares. So it can be truly authentic, be factually correct, but it's not compelling at all. Nobody cares.
How does that happen?
Well, I mean,
it's not compelling. It's you're basically saying it's boring.
Yeah. I mean, just as an exercise, let's just take healthcare, for example. You go and Google the top life sciences organizations in the world, or, the top 10 organizations with anything to do with healthcare. They're all going to be blue. They're all going to have a sans serif typeface, and that all of their EVPs and the employer value propositions are going to talk about purpose. And what you could do, Andrew, which is quite a fun little exercise, is take all the EVPs, take all the brands, shuffle the names, and attribute an EVP to a brand in random order, and it won't make any difference whatsoever.
It's true. It's so true.
Yeah. So, you can be flat, vanilla, and boring, and all the rest of it. And if you've done that, it means you just haven't dug deep enough to find the gold that exists in your organization. And I've been digging and digging for 20 years, and we find unique gold in every organization, such that it gives you goosebumps. It's like, oh my God, that is the feeling that I get. This is why I'm here versus the place down the road. And you have to find it. Because it's all too easy to make up something that kind of sounds okay and talks about purpose and this, that, and the other. But it's instantly forgettable. It's boring. So that can fail. The second thing is you can turn the dials up on the attractiveness, and you can say something that sounds amazing, but just isn't true. I'm afraid to say this, this is true, but sometimes you get a domineering CEO that says, no, I want it to be this. It's like, oh, but that's garbage, or, that sounds great, but it's not true at all. It's just, so there's a lot of reasons why an employer brand can fail. And typically it comes down to either a little bit of bravery lacking to sort of stand out and sort of stick behind your sort of conviction, or it could be compelling and extremely effective at doing the thing that the organization doesn't need. So it might be make you really attractive, but the wrong message attracts the wrong type of person. Or it could be instantly forgettable, or, I could go on and on and on. And it ultimately comes down to tactical execution rather than a strategic approach.
Are you leaving it there? Leave it there. It usually comes down to tactical execution versus strategic approach. What does that mean?
Well, I'm glad you asked. You can tactically tick some boxes and produce a great EVP, but if it isn't aligned with the business and you haven't strategically created something that's fit for purpose, that the business needs and the people really want, and when you activate, not only is it effective at getting people to apply, but it's effective at getting people to accept the job and then thrive in their job, then, you can achieve any number of those tactical steps. But if it doesn't strategically add up to what the business needs or the long-term sustainable goals of the alignment of businesses and people, then, you're set to fail.
Okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. A question that occurred to me while you were just talking was about those executives who say, no, I want to say this. How much of your EVP can be aspirational?
Ooh, are you ready for a bomb that I'm going to drop on this conversation now?
Yes, I am.
So this is controversial. Get ready for loads of angry comments. But in most organizations today, especially in a volatile world where most organizations are in transition, I think in order to be 100% authentic, your EVP should be at least 80% aspirational.
80%?
Yeah.
So then how do you argue with that CEO who says, no, we're this?
Okay. I will tell you. I'm glad you asked. So, and I'll say that again. In order to be 100% authentic, it needs to be at least 80% aspirational. And the argument can be explained simply by, talking about you need to skate where the puck is going. However, if you say you're already there, so the CEO says, no, we are the most innovative organization in the world, then that's a falsehood. It's not authentic at all. It's only aspirational. If you say, here's what we want to change the world by getting rid of zero emissions in aviation. I'm going to make something up. In order to do that, we need to go on a journey and become the most innovative company in the world. It's going to take us 4 years, and we need people with this capability, and this capability. And when they join us, they need to put up with this adversity, this challenge, and this sacrifice. Now, do you want to come on that journey with us? Because that's where we're going, and that's what it takes to get there. Now, if your employer brand strategy lays that out and you tell that story, it's 100% authentic and at least 80% aspirational. Now, the alternative is you tell the truth about the current reality, right? So you don't claim to be innovative at all. You don't claim to be the best market leader and the this, that, and the other rest of it. You just tell the truth about now. Now, that isn't inspiring. It's not valuable to the organization. And you're not going to be fulfilled in a career by having your expectations set in that way. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but it begs the question for me that when your business strategy, when your strategy changes, which inevitably it's going to do, then do you have to change your EVP?
Yeah, so your employer brand should be as sustainable as the sort of the chapters in your vision and your business strategy. So the vision of an organization technically, should be good for 20 years. Mm-hmm. Your business strategy might change every 5 to 8 years at a sort of macro level. And annually, the sort of navigating the landscape, how you do that from a business perspective might change all the time. Now, your employer brand needs to be aligned with your vision. Your EVP needs to be aligned with the terrain that you are navigating today. Now, the themes shouldn't change for a good 3 years if you've got those themes right. Mm-hmm. But the specific stories you tell, the examples you give, and the context of the here and now, that's what needs to change. So, your EVP is your shop window. Be saying the same thing, the same purpose-told story, but with a much more up-to-date example of where you are in your journey, which of course is always changing.
I asked this one and the last one. I'm going to ask it again because I think it's valuable. How can you develop a good EVP without a lot of money?
So that's a great question. And actually, the EVP is probably the thing that you can do for $0. And if you think about it, you've got to invest in the reputation you need as an employer with a bit of research. So that might need a bit of budget. The experience of how it shows up and the magnitude of how it shows up might require a bit of budget. But the listening and the thinking and the figuring out what the proposition is the bit that you could do on your own in theory, any organization. Most large organizations will outsource that because they want a third-party neutral voice and they want a fresh perspective, and that's fine. But, if you do your research and you do thorough listening and you ask the right questions, and all the questions are laid out in the book as well, by the way, understanding the current culture, how it feels to belong, where people find a sense of purpose, impact, and belonging the most inside your organization. Why they join, why they stay, why they put up with or how they navigate the adversities and harsh realities. And if you ask all of those questions and you dig and dig and dig and find the derivative of how people feel as part of that organization, and what they value the most in themselves and others, and all the other critical human-centric ingredients, then you can put a proposition together very easily that is both unique as it is compelling, authentic, and transparent. And this isn't about budget, it's about careful listening and insightfully connecting the dots. Something together, which is the inspiration has to come from how true the message is. And when the truth resonates, you have something compelling, and that's the goal. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've spent 20 years in rooms with people digging for story gold, and we always find it. In fact, this will make you smile. One of our most creative metrics of success when we're cultivating employer brand, doing the research, is every time we go into a room with employees that we're speaking to, how many times we get people to cry. And it's very rare that we don't get tears in some of these research activities, because we know how to pull out the human-centric stories of the meaning, the personal meaning of why people come to work and the impact they make, sense of purpose they feel, and the belonging that exists in the room. It can be really emotional. And that's, if you make people cry, that's a good sign. I don't mean cry, painful cry, it's a good thing.
Right. I'm not sure I want to go to one of your sessions. I don't want to cry in front of my coworkers. Is there anything else I should have asked that I didn't about EVP? Anything else that people ought to know?
So one interesting thing that I really believe employer brand leaders and people owning employer brand as an HR leader need to get better at is their own personal brand, for a variety of reasons. So if you wanted to ask anything around how should somebody navigate a career internally as an employer brander, that might be interesting to your audience.
Well, to go ahead, answer the question.
So a lot of times, especially in smaller organizations, but surprisingly in large global organizations as well, it's not uncommon that the employer brand leader is a great big team of one. They are the maverick advocating for a budget against other people. They have to prove a business case and demonstrate the impact it can make. And if they're successful enough to get a little bit of budget, then they've got to put it to work. And the vast majority of the time, the people around them are more senior than them. And they're not educated in employer brands. They don't appreciate the value. And so it's really important that employer brand leaders understand the value of personal brand and how to leverage and educate the value and impact they can bring in their role, not just for themselves, obviously, but for other people around them. If you've got a little bit of budget and you're a team of one, and in the name of research, you've got this little window of opportunity to go and stick your nose into any office and interview any leader and get under the skin of the business strategy and access the CEO and really listen and make a great impression. And it's really important that the employer brand leader grasps those opportunities and intentionally markets back what they've heard and found. Make sure that people see the impact that they make. Ask the right, intelligent, insightful questions when they do have that opportunity. Create feedback loops, which maintains the access. There's a whole host of ways of building a personal brand inside an organization for an employer brand leader. And it's really important that they intentionally take hold of those things. And some of my advice would be, make sure you work with an employer brand agency that you can really trust from an expertise perspective, and you can lean on to give you a little bit of help to navigate leadership and internal communications and those key milestone presentations, understanding the right altitude to pitch the message, and everything, evidence backed, everything has a business case, so on and so forth. So the personal brand aspect of the work isn't to be underestimated, and it's a pitfall I see some employer brand leaders fall into time and time again, unfortunately.
All right. How can someone learn about creating their own EVP without maybe hiring you or your old company?
Yeah. So again, reach out to me on LinkedIn, buy the book, Give and Get Employer Branding. It's really designed to be a pragmatic approach to doing the work yourself, so it's put the information out there. And there is a number of other forums and sort of Facebook groups and that kind of thing. But actually tap into a network of other employer brand leaders. What I've found is people are just lovely and generous and happy to help. But start somewhere, jump in, publish your wins and fails on LinkedIn and connect with people there. And when you give with generosity, typically you receive with state of impact as well. So that would definitely be my advice from a starting point perspective.
Well, thanks, Bryan. That was just so insightful. I learned so much and so many things reinforced. The one thing I'm thinking about is that idea of our own branding. And while that might be super important for someone working in personal brand, it's important for all of us. And I think I need to do an episode on that, but not right now. Bryan and I did a different episode on the full concept of employer brand, and that link is right here. Thanks for watching out there, and we will see you next time.